We're going to talk a little bit about some of the policing activity over the last year and a half. I'm Gordon Ramsey, I'm the police chief, and maybe we could just go down the line, started with Angel, and you can say who you are and what you represent.
Angel Martinez, love your community, the Hispanic community here in Wichita.
Brandon Johnson, Community Operations Recovery Empowerment.
Pastor Roosevelt DeShays, Greater Wichita Ministerial League.
David Gilkey, Program Director for Raza for Youth.
And Michael Kennard, candidate District 1.
So last year, we had a lot of success with some of our relationship building. I frequently hear about our cookout, and some people feel that it was, that we did that to placate people or whatever, but there was a lot of great things that came out of that, right? We had a dialogue and a discussion, and the police department, we committed to doing some things differently. So I want to go through those. Today, you saw one of the major ones, which was the Civilian Review Board, that went to the City Council for their approval today, which was approved unanimously. I believe that will be another step in the right direction where citizens can come inside the police department and review our processes and complaints and make sure we're doing the best we can. That is a good thing in my mind. I think that's good government, and I think it will be a benefit to community relations. Another item we did was concern about police officers investigating their own when it comes to criminal acts. As you know, back in January and February, the sheriff and I penned an agreement where they would do our criminal investigations of officers of Wichita Police Department accused of criminal acts, and we would conduct criminal investigations for the sheriff. That is a big deal. That is probably no other city this large has an agreement with like that with a sheriff's department. I'm proud of that fact, and actually I'm glad because it takes a lot of the pressure off the police department, right? So that there is no concerns about getting things wrong or that we may be covering for one of our own. It just cleans the process up. And actually there was an incident yesterday involving an officer involved in a domestic where we turned it over to the sheriff's department and asked them to investigate. We also committed to providing training for all our officers on racial awareness, fair and impartial policing, implicit bias. So this month, our entire staff, not just police officers, but also support staff, 850 people are going through the implicit bias training, fair and impartial policing. You are more than welcome to attend one of those sessions, attend part of it, and cover it if you'd like, so you can see what the officers are getting and what they're learning. That is a big commitment, not only financially, but also with time. So I'm proud of that fact, and again, that was a commitment we made to the community. There's also issues with the gang list and concerns that juveniles were not being notified. Now, we do know that in the last 10 years or so, when we put juveniles on the gang list, their families weren't always notified. So we've partnered with community members to change that policy. So now we notify all families or guardians of those juveniles that are identified as being in a gang. We also give them a lot of resources. So if they want to get out of gangs, there is resources to help them. One of the biggest things is our community outreach with our partners, right? So we have developed, we have assigned officers to reach out to different areas of the community. Paul Cruz is one of them. He works pretty much full-time on our relationships with the community, the Hispanic community. We have mental health outreach where we work closely with NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness. Right now there's a tremendous burden in our community with people suffering, that burden that falls on the police of people suffering from mental illness. And police aren't always the best agency to help, but it's the only one where you can dial 3 digits and get police response. So we've been working closely with our community members to help better address issues of mental illness. Some of the other liaisons that we have is deaf and hard of hearing. We have the Middle Eastern culture, the autistic community, homeless and mental health, refugee community. Also started the God Squad, which is a group of African American pastors that helps advise me on different matters, helps us deal with community issues. That has been a tremendous step as well. One of the big things also we want to talk about is body cameras. So all of our officers were outfitted last summer with body cameras. The technology is changing. We've seen across the country where officers have sometimes they forget to turn the cameras on, and valuable footage is not captured. Well, the technology is advancing so much now that these cameras have Bluetooth capability. So we are testing out 12. Come on up, Larry. We're testing out 12 body cameras that automatically come on when a taser is removed from the holster, or when the lights are turned on in the squad car, or when the shotgun is removed from the squad car. The body cameras are coming on automatically, so it will help eliminate that human error. We can also now, when the officer hits the button, there's a previous report time of 30 seconds. We can expand that up to 2 minutes as well. So the technology with body cameras is really changing. And we're trying out 12 of those now to see how they work. They don't have the capability for the holsters, a regular gun holster yet, but they're working on it. And we are guessing that probably in the next year or so that we will have that capability. Lastly, I want to talk about use of force. A major community issue and concern is how police use force. We have added less than lethal options for our staff. We know that it's been used at least 6 times since last summer, primarily around suicidal individuals holding a weapon. So that is just another tool for our officers. Now, you can't use them in every situation, but it is just another option, and that is the direction we continue to have. 2 more points, and then we'll get to anything else anybody else may want to say. But we've really focused on that use of force training, slowing down volatile situations, and not rushing in and creating a crisis. Provided de-escalation training for all patrol officers to improve communication and their skills associated with these volatile incidents. So those are the big keys that I wanted to touch on again. Focusing on what we had committed to and how we're trying to work, be better partners with the community, and here we're trying to make the police department part of the community, and together we're trying to be the best we can. So I'd open up the floor to anybody that would like to say anything up here.
I'll start it off. I work with Chief Ramsey, Pablo Cruz, and Officer Durrell, the Wichita Police Department, on building relationships in our community with the youth. I feel it's very important for the police department to know the youth of their community. And also, while we're doing that, encourage more minority children to become police officers, because they have a firsthand experience and knowledge of the situations they face on a day-to-day basis. I feel with them being placed into a good environment where they see the police in a good light, we'll be able to see the police handle things better, just from a knowledgeable standpoint. And I think we, make great progress that way.
So for me, just want to continue to say how thankful I am that we have Chief Ramsey here in Wichita. The chief has kept his word. He's continued to work to improve community police relationships. We've seen that not only from the cookout, but to the work, as he said, that we're doing with the juveniles and the gang file. And I'm just appreciative, again, that everything that the chief committed to, he's working on. And the ones that didn't work out, the support for the special prosecutor bill, he's working with the sheriff's department on those investigations. So we continue to see progress with the department. I look forward to continuing to build community around the police department in that way.
And I truly believe community is the foundation of this. Since Chief Ramsey has been here, the transparency from the police department has just been, visible. They are there. Chief is, as far as the God Squad is concerned, we meet on a regular basis, keeping us updated on the things that are going on, the changes in police policy, what's going on in the community. We've actually done some training to see how officers react to situations when force is needed or weapons are needed. We've had many different encounters. with the police department. The impact meetings are wonderful. Whenever there's an incident in the community, they let us know so that we can be there to minister to the community, to help them to try to find and resolve whatever issues there may be that caused the incident to happen. As well as the Citizen Review Board, I am really encouraged that this is going to be a great tool for the citizens of Wichita and the communities, because it's going to be made up of people from all over the city. And it's going to be a great tool to use to, again, increase the transparency of the police department, but also the accountability to the police department and to the community.
I work with a lot of young people, and speaking on the juvenile gang list, when they send out the letters to let parents know their young loved ones are on the gang list, I would hope they send a letter to let them know that they're off the gang list also. And another thing that I would like to see done is we put together this committee review board, is to make sure it's a diverse board to where we have access just like the police department has, so that we can also see videos of any incidents that occur. So it'll be a well-balanced review board, so we can have our input just as well as anyone else to make sure that everyone is treated equally. So I hope this review board comes together to really make a difference, not only in our community, but throughout the city.
I think it's a tremendous asset to have Chief Ramsey in this community, and he's not waiting for a tragedy to happen before he's actually enacting this citizen review board. It's important that we do have the transparency, and then we, the people, have access to this so that we can examine the facts as they are given. So I applaud Chief Ramsey for getting ahead of this, and look forward for this citizen review board to be an acting partner in the community.
Again, it goes without saying that everything that Chief Ramsey has done since he's been here has been a vast improvement for what we have as community policing in Wichita. And again, I applaud his efforts. And if you just look at this table, you see that part of his initiative is being inclusive, making sure he has key players, people in the community, folks that are at the grassroots level that can help him make a difference. And we thank you for that. And we're going to be dedicated to making sure that we have the best policing opportunity and situation in the city of Wichita. The issue of the program with the Citizen Review Board, glad we're getting that off the ground and running, because I know we had a chance to kind of look at it before the fact. We had a chance to input to that as a process, and now that we're going to get the green light for that, it's going to be a great addition to everything else you're doing. So as long as these initiatives keep going the way they're going, and again, you're having open dialogue with organizations such as ours, it's without saying that we're moving in the right direction, and we're going to have a great community here in Wichita as far as policing is concerned. And I applaud you again, Chief, all the things that you're doing to support this community and what you're doing and making the improvements in our department, because we can truly say that this is our police department, and we're glad to be able to say that.
I appreciate that. You guys are making the department better, though, right? I don't want this to be about me today. I want it to be about the department, but it's your input and desire to make this a better place that has helped me and the department tremendously. So
Let me just say one more thing, because I don't want this to end up looking like it's just a black issue or just a minority issue. I believe Chief Ramsey is looking out for the best interest for the entire city.
Sure.
And as a Greater Wichita Ministerial League, who is made up of pastors from all over the city, and our input and our interest covers the entire city. Now, I think the reason why right now the minorities are here at the table, more African Americans are here at the table, because for so long the African American community has not had a voice. And I thank Chief Ramsey for now allowing us to at least come to the table and talk. But again, I don't want this to look like it's a black issue. This is a city issue. Because when one area of the city is failing or is in need or suffering, then it impacts the whole city. So as we continue to build up the areas of the city, all of Wichita will be better.
Chief, you've made a very big public display of having yourself out there. You really try to be transparent from what I can tell. I think a lot of community members would agree with that sentiment that you try to be as transparent as you can. When it comes to transparency for this review board, who's going to appoint the members to the board of the citizens? And I do have questions about the review board itself. Do we need another completely independent review board that could or would or should have subpoena power? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, subpoena power isn't easy because one, we'd have to change state law. Two, we would also have to change, negotiate a contract with the police that allows change to the discipline process. So a lot of this is about getting done what we can, right, in a reasonable amount of time. So I also believe that when citizens come in and see how we do our investigations and they get to pull everything back and see the videos and ask the questions and understand what happened, that people will feel that there is legitimacy to the process. Because this has never happened before where they're going to get to see everything, right? And there is no perfect review board. Different things work for different communities. And we're going to try this. We will continue to evaluate it and see if it's meeting our needs. It is critical that we appoint the right people to that board, though, right? So you asked about the appointees.
Yes.
The manager is going to appoint them. Now, in years past, there's been the manager's review board that has appointed people. From what I gather, that it's been a pretty inclusive group that's been on there. I hadn't heard a lot of complaints of people on there, but for me, it is, I really want to see people that the community wants on there and that have legitimacy in the community. Now, it's not healthy to put someone on there with an axe to grind or that is, there with a specific agenda. We want people that can be objective and understand the role that it is critical to keep an open mind, right? So we want to get people that have legitimacy but also can look at things objectively.
Now, as far as the subpoena goes, you'd be open down the road?
Well, you know what? Potentially. It would take a lot of changes. The other thing for me is that who's going to do the investigation? Are you going to have a board doing the investigation? It gets the auditor. I would be much more open to an auditor position that audits or a monitor that monitors it. But there's substantial costs with those different review boards. Substantial. So not only do you have the legal issues you got to work through, you also have the costs. So there is probably a $15,000 to $20,000 cost with this review board using existing staff. If you go with so ours is the review board model. There is the investigative model that you're talking about. That investigative model is very expensive.
How expensive? Is it double that?
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You think it would be hundreds?
Yes, I do.
What about people that would ask the question, is this going to end up being a rubber stamp for the department?
Well, I think we got to give it a chance and see how it goes. I know they're going to get to see everything. I want to be the best we can be, right? I want people of this community to hold us accountable. And if we are doing things that are not with best practices or treating people unfairly, I want to be held accountable for that.
Well, what about this officer that was arrested? Would the review board look into that incident that just happened?
All police complaints they will see. So yes, they would see that after the criminal is done, after the investigation is done, yes.
You were talking about the three different kinds of civilian boards, just a review one that we have, an investigative one and an auditor-monitor one.
Mm-hmm. Can
you describe why, obviously the investigative one was the one that had the subpoena power.
Correct.
The other ones, you were saying just basically cost too much, or is it time constraint that you cannot do it right now? Is that the reason why you went to the lowest?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily the best. The investigative one, I don't know if that's the best. My experience has been in the review, the civilian oversight review board world, not the monitor, not the investigative. And one of the reasons why is because of the expense associated with it and the personnel costs, as well as the getting over the contract, right? So you got to negotiate this stuff because it's changing working conditions.
Would that be FOP negotiated?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So with this review board here, would that be, I see you saying they'll see everything and every arrest in this thing here of nature, but this board convene on a call basis?
No, they'll meet regularly. There'll be complaints every meeting to look through and talk about.
Well, where am I then?
Well, I hope not. I hope we get to the point where, aren't resolved. I'll tell you this though, with the body cameras, or are resolved. With the body cameras, we're resolving a lot of complaints. People come in right next to my office is the internal affairs, and you see them marching in and they're angry, and we allow them to watch the videos of their case, as long as it's not an active investigation. So they sit down, they watch them, and then a few minutes later I see them leave out the door like this, okay, thank you, and away they go, because they see the memory may be a little off from what they recall. They may have been under the influence. So we're resolving a lot of complaints just by allowing citizens to come in and review the video.
Obviously, a lot of interest in wanting to be on this board. People in this community, you just mentioned that they will be appointed. Is there an application process that someone can say, I would be interested? Are any of these folks that are on this table interested in it? Also, questions that people want to know, and will media be allowed to be in it?
Well, you got to keep in mind that a lot of that's personnel data that they see, right? So it's not for public consumption. This again goes back to the importance of putting people with legitimacy on the board, so that those people can go back to the community and say, you know what, I've reviewed the facts. Well, we can't talk about specifics, this, and this. And I can't answer if anybody.
If I wasn't running for city council, I'd want to be on there.
I would love to be on there too. We haven't been asked, but I would love to be on there.
And most definitely, it's one of those things that we want to be one of the people in the community that can help diffuse issues and concerns with our police department. And this is a great tool and mechanism to be able to do that.
I would love to be on there, most definitely. Yes, I think it would make a difference. I just want to know what is the criteria to be on the review board. What do you have to do to be on it? Do they do background checks? What is it going to be picked to be on there?
What is the
You want to say?
Can you answer
Well,
that?
Can I introduce the senator?
Thank you.
Good senator
Thank you,
that is here.
Chief Ramsey, and David Gilkey. It's on the front page of Wichita Eagle today,
Okay.
all the qualifications. And I too would love to be on there, but elected officials aren't allowed to be on there. And, I just want to say, I too appreciate what Chief Ramsey is doing and other members of the community. However, I think we really have to get to a point where we really truly work together. Because everything that the chief has mentioned today are legislation that I've introduced. Therefore, the city and the police could implement it, and the body can. If it weren't for Representative Finney and myself introducing that legislation, we wouldn't have it. And we fought for years to get it, and now it's a good thing. Also, when you talk about the racial bias-based racial profiling, that's legislation that I also helped introduce. And I know it like the back of my hand. And when we talk about training and all of that, I think the members that are sitting there with you now need to be in the trainings and help train the police from that perspective of the complaints that you receive. And I just see that as you talked about, the legislation that would allow that subpoena power is a bill that I introduced, and it didn't move through the legislative process, but it certainly would have been beneficial here. I see this as a real catalyst, although the racial profiling task force meets here every Thursday night, and Sheila officers and others fought for a long time working with City Manager Robert Layton for the Citizens Review Board. And I accidentally heard about this meeting, but I'm just saying, if we don't have all the mechanisms, we just still are stagnated, kind of doing the same thing. But we need all the people who, to implement the law, to enact the law, and then you guys to implement it, in order for our city to really move forward. But I do appreciate what you're doing here today, and I'm glad that I got to be a little bit part of it, because as you mentioned, Chief, is that you're going to have to, it would take legislation to pass a law to do what you're saying. So you guys got me at least for 3 more years and 2 months, so I want to help. Thank you.
Chief Ramsey, I got a chance yesterday before this to kind of profile the Citizen Review Board. Now, this isn't the entire meeting, but I talked to Santiago Quintero, Father John Paul Quintero, yesterday, who is still very upset with what happened to his son. He's still hurting in a lot of ways, but he's optimistic that the Citizens Review Board would have provided a lot of answers that he feels like the public just did not hear about. So it's a two-part question, Chief. So for parents like Mr. Quintero, would they be able to also review this? How would they play a part in this Citizens Review Board process if their child were to, for instance, find themselves in a situation such as his son?
Sure. Well, keep in mind, our goal and what we've been working on is reducing police use of force, right? Officer-involved shootings there's no winners in that. And everyone is a tragedy. And I've dealt with a lot of these throughout my time as chief. And, we're trying to put mechanisms and training into place where we don't have to use deadly force. When I got into policing in the early 90s, I would have thought by today we would have some type of weapon that could incapacitate someone without killing them. And that still doesn't exist. So, we're looking at technology with this less than lethal. We obviously want to communicate with families and ensure that they know facts and as much as we can. But these are sad realities of what we are working through and trying to make better. And we're trying to do it collaboratively. We're trying to make this better for everybody so that this kind of heartbreak doesn't happen.
And second part, Chief, I talked to Mr. David Gilby to your right there also about this. And one of his big facts was that he hopes that the Citizens Review Board, whatever their recommendation would be, that it would have some weight. So is that something that you would listen to? I guess, am I right, David? I don't know where's your mouth.
Yeah.
But whatever they find, and if it's opposite of what the police department finds, that their opinion would have some weight. Is that?
Well, I think, if there's anything that is taken from this today, I hope it shows that we are trying to be more collaborative and that the community counts in my mind. And we want this to work. We want to improve police-community relationships, and we believe this is a step in the right direction to make that happen. The legitimacy is not only of the people who are appointed, but also what the outcome is of different things. And I'm committed to being the best we possibly can be.
A lot has happened in our country since the day of that picnic. And I don't think it would be a stretch telling you that nationally, racial tensions, incidents of racism are worse than they were on that day. Do the members of the review board feel like this group has helped make maybe things a little less volatile in Wichita compared to nationally? I mean, has this helped ease some of the tensions that we see nationally going on right now?
I would say that we're very fortunate because we don't have to deal with a lot of the issues that other people do nationwide. I don't see as many police as proactive as ours. I mean, everything, I've met with Chief Ramsey multiple times. He's come to me about youth. He's come to me about just a vast array of different topics, and he just followed through on every single one. He genuinely cares, whereas a lot of other people just want to say something, move right along. He follows through and he'll check back up. Hey, what else can we do to improve? He's always looking to do those things. So I would say here locally, we're not perfect, but this is a starting point, and he's taking the right steps to make sure that we are constantly improving, and I think he genuinely cares. So I think that this is going to be a great deal for our city.
I believe Wichita is really an example for the country because, from the cookout up to this date, anything that goes on in the city, the community finds out. Chief calls the God Squad. He lets us know. We get it out to our congregations. Real information, not hearsay stuff, but real information. As well as, I think we're blessed because we haven't had the kind of incidents that have taken place in other parts of the country. And I believe it's because we are a city, a collective city that cares about our city and really cares about one another. And I believe, again, we are headed in the right direction. We've got a lot of work still yet to do, but I believe we're headed in the right direction, and we'll be that model or that example to the country of just how a city should be and the relationship between community and police officers.
Chief, you mentioned body cameras a little while ago as well.
It's so my understanding that supervisors, sergeants who might respond to scenes, they also don't have body cameras. Is that something that you're still looking at, or kind of where is that?
We are. The body cameras, so it's still unfunded. We are still struggling to pay for that. Just the storage alone on the body cameras is $380,000 a year. That again is unfunded that we need to find. We scrimp and scrape to find that money. So to find, to outfit another 30-some patrol sergeants is going to be tough. I want to do it, and I'd like to do it yesterday, but it boils down to finding the funding. My goal is to have it done in the next 6 months. Again, that is, I got to find the funding to do it, but I would like supervisors to have those too. They want them as well. I hear that many times. Our officers now, I think and I saw this in Minnesota too, when you first implement them, it's about 50-50. Officers want them, officers don't. Now, I'd say it's 95% want them. They don't like to go out in the street without them. The sergeants want them. I've heard detectives want them. So it's the future.
We'll take 2 more questions. 2 more.
I'm part of the community too. I think what the larger part of the community want to know is if the police do make the mistake, then are they going to be held accountable? If they pull that trigger, are they going to really be held accountable? Or are we just going to talk about it and say we're going to put something in process? Because that's been happening for years.
Yeah. Well, one of my goals is to build that trust.
Police reports and all that kind of stuff.
Yep. My goal is to improve trust, right? I would like nothing more than to come back in a year or 2 with you and have you say, you know what, you're making a difference. We're doing better. That's where we want to get to. I understand there's a lot of people that feel that way for past experience. I recognize that.
It's just the community here. I don't know about no other communities. I know here how people feel when the police still to this day drive past your house, shine a light on it, follow you down the street, do all that. Same thing.
Yeah. Well, so remember, and this is one of the themes that I had at the cookout, it does take 2 to make relationships. So you can help make me better, and if you have people that have had police problems or concerns, dial me up. Let's talk about it. With these body cameras, we can review that. So my goal is to fix that, right? That I do this job because I feel I have a passion for police and the role that police play in society. I don't want people to fear the police or be scared of the police or feel that they're being treated unfairly. And that's why we do all this. That's why we're making these efforts. And people like you can make us better.
All right, let's take one more.
How do you, what do you see as the mechanism to be able to communicate the issues and the effectiveness of this board?
Well, I think that's something that's going to have to be reviewed. Obviously, the people that are on it, we'll do we'll probably do a year review and see how they're feeling about it. We'll have to just get the overall feel for it. This is new for us, and we might stumble and fall, but we are committed, and we're here together to say we're going to work until we get it right. So I guess that's the way we're going to work on it. And
Chief, just to wrap it up, so that everyone has this, the biggest news out of today was this new review board.
Yeah.
People want to know how different this will be from everything that has been spoken about in the past. Just wrap it all up for people and remind them that they can apply for this.
Yeah. So this is a group of community members where they will be coming inside the police department to review police complaints. They will get to pull back the layers, poke, prod, peel, ask to make us better. They will get to see video. They will get to see the reports and ask questions. And then make recommendations on what we can do better. The value of having different lens review our work is important to me, and I value that. So I do believe that this is a step in involving the community more inside the police department, taking and knocking down those insular walls of the past, where citizens are a part of what we do, and a very intricate part of what we do. Okay? Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks to you guys for coming.